Ever wonder what happened to the superheroes who never made it to the Hall of Fame? The ones who flashed across your Saturday morning TV then vanished like static between channels? The 70s and 80s were full of caped crusaders and cosmic defenders who soared, punched, and sometimes tripped their way through animated chaos. Some were ahead of their time, others too strange to survive, but every one of them deserves another look. The Freedom Force, 1978. Before cinematic universes ruled entertainment, there was the Freedom Force, a team-up so bizarre it could only have come from the late 70s. Imagine Hercules, Isis, Sinbad, and Merlin joining forces to save the world, all packed into 10-minute animated bursts. Produced by Filmation, the same studio that gave us He-Man and Fat Albert this show, was an experiment in mythological mashups, mixing ancient legends with disco-era flair. Each episode felt like a time capsule of Saturday morning creativity. Bright colors echoing theme songs and moral lessons shouted louder than the animation budget could handle. The heroes flew across dimensions to stop villains with names like Ozymandias and Queen Medusa. Sure, the stories were thin, but the spirit was enormous. The show made you feel like you were flipping through a comic book, powered by pure imagination. What made the Freedom Force special was its ambition. It dared to assemble heroes from different worlds long before crossover events became common. Hercules flexed his mythic muscles, Isis brought brains and compassion, and Merlin, yes, that Merlin added his quirky spells to the mix. Kids who saw it back then still recall its bold theme tune and the feeling that anything was possible. Even though it aired for only 5 episodes as part of Tarzan and the Super 7, the Freedom Force remains a snapshot of a time when animation could throw everything at the wall and somehow make it work. Godzilla. The animated series, 1978 to 1981. Long before computer effects made monsters feel real, Godzilla, the animated series brought the king of the monsters to Saturday morning TV and turned him into an unexpected hero. Produced by Hanna-Barbera, it followed the crew of the research ship Calico, who explored the world's strangest phenomena with one extraordinary ally: Godzilla himself. Summoned by a sonic call whenever danger struck, the giant reptile emerged from the sea to save humanity from volcanoes, giant squids, and other colossal threats. This version of Godzilla wasn't the city-smashing terror from films. He was a guardian, loyal to the human crew, and surprisingly gentle at heart. Alongside him was Godzuki, his bumbling but lovable nephew, who added comic relief and made the show more approachable for kids. The animation carried Hanna-Barbera's signature style: colorful skies, rolling waves, and that unforgettable roar echoing across the ocean. The series blended environmental lessons with creature feature excitement, giving young viewers action and awareness at once. While purists missed the darker tone of the original films, Godzilla, the animated series introduced an entire generation to the legend in a way they could cheer for. It was thrilling, imaginative, and proof that even monsters can have heart. Webwoman, 1978. Long before the world discovered spider-inspired superheroes on the big screen, Webwoman spun her own corner of animated history. Hidden within Tarzan and the Super 7, this short-lived Filmation gem followed Kelly Webster, an agricultural scientist who saves an alien bee and is rewarded with the powers of the web. With her insect-inspired costume and a mission to protect Earth's environment, she became one of the earliest female eco-heroes in cartoons. Her transformation scenes were mesmerizing for their time. The call of "Insects of the Earth, come to me" was both eerie and empowering. Webwoman could climb walls, spin energy webs, and communicate with insects, all while balancing her double life as a scientist and protector of nature. For late 70s animation, that was revolutionary. While the animation wasn't flashy, the tone was bold. Every episode carried a message about environmental awareness, teamwork, or courage presented in a way kids could grasp. The show stood out because Kelly wasn't a damsel in distress. She was the rescuer, the scientist, and the strategist. Despite running for just 7 segments, Webwoman made a lasting impression. It paved the way for future animated heroines and proved that science-driven storytelling could coexist with superhero adventure. It was strange, bright, and full of heart, a lost gem for anyone who loves their heroes with a dash of originality. Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, 1977 to 1980. Few cartoon heroes were as gloriously ridiculous as Captain Caveman. Picture a prehistoric superhero thawed from ice and handed a club that could pull out any gadget imaginable, from a hairdryer to a helicopter. Then toss in 3 fearless mystery-solving girls, and you get a show that blended Scooby-Doo's formula with slapstick superhero nonsense. Each episode began with that unforgettable yell, "Captain Caveman!" And from there, chaos reigned. He wasn't the smartest hero on the block, but he was definitely the loudest. Whether crashing through walls or accidentally solving mysteries, Captain Caveman was pure comedic energy. The Teen Angels Brenda Dee and Taffy balanced out his clumsiness with clever plans and unstoppable optimism. Produced by Hanna-Barbera, this cartoon captured the lighter side of heroism. It wasn't about saving the universe. It was about friendship, teamwork, and laughter. And it worked. Kids adored it. The show's energy, fueled by Mel Blanc's booming voice, made it impossible to forget. What made Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels special was its self-awareness. It poked fun at superheroes while celebrating them. Beneath the laughs, there was warmth, a reminder that even the most bumbling hero could save the day. The character became such a hit that he even joined the Scooby-Doo gang later on, proving that caveman charm never truly goes extinct. The Mighty Orbots, 1984 to 1985. If there was ever an animated series that deserved a second chance, it's The Mighty Orbots. Imagine a fusion of Japanese mecha energy and American superhero storytelling, all wrapped in neon colors and futuristic optimism. Produced by TMS and aired briefly in the mid-80s, this show followed Rob Simmons, a young inventor who led a team of transforming robots, each with unique powers and personalities, against galactic threats. Visually, The Mighty Orbots was stunning. The animation quality rivaled theatrical releases of its time, with smooth movement, dazzling effects, and bold art direction. Every robot had a distinct character. Bo was graceful, Boo was adorable, and Crunch was the lovable glutton with endless strength. Together, they could merge into the giant superhero robot known as the Mighty Orbots, creating some of the flashiest transformation sequences of the decade. But what really stood out was its heart. The show balanced humor with heroics, personality with polish. Each episode carried a moral without feeling preachy, and the team dynamic made it more about family than fighting. Unfortunately, its short life was cut down by legal conflicts and limited promotion. Yet among fans, it became a cult favorite, a bright spark of creativity that vanished too soon. Looking back, The Mighty Orbots feels like a glimpse into a future that never arrived. It proved that animation could be both thrilling and emotional, blending East and West in ways few shows dared to attempt. Thundarr the Barbarian, 1980 to 1982. There's a kind of beauty in chaos, and Thundarr the Barbarian proved it every Saturday morning. This wasn't your typical caped hero tale. Set in a world shattered by a cosmic disaster, the Earth of Thundarr was half medieval, half futuristic, and entirely wild. You had sorcery mixing with science. Ruins of our cities turned into playgrounds for monsters, and a sun-scorched sky that made every episode feel epic. Thundarr himself was pure energy, a sword-swinging warrior with a mane of blonde hair and a booming voice that sounded like it could knock down walls. His magical sun sword glowed like pure Saturday morning power, and he was joined by two unforgettable sidekicks: the fierce Princess Ariel, who wielded magic and wisdom in equal measure, and Ukla the Mok, a feline powerhouse whose roars spoke louder than any words. Co-created by comic book legend Steve Gerber and designed by Jack Kirby himself, the show looked like an animated comic come to life. The landscapes were stunning, post-apocalyptic, skylines where the Statue of Liberty lay in ruins, robots fought wizards, and humanity struggled to survive. It was bold, it was strange, and it was way ahead of its time. What made Thundarr so special was its tone. It was never silly. It treated its weirdness seriously, making kids feel like they were watching something truly big. For a generation growing up in the dawn of the 80s, Thundarr the Barbarian was their introduction to epic storytelling. It wasn't just another cartoon. It was a gateway into imagination itself. The Galaxy Trio. 1970s. Long before superheroes started forming mega-teams on the big screen, the Galaxy Trio was out there patrolling space and saving galaxies. Originally part of Birdman and the Galaxy Trio in the late 60s, this cosmic squad found a second life in reruns throughout the 70s. And for a good reason. It had all the ingredients of a perfect team-up show: cool powers, colorful villains, and pure optimism. The trio consisted of Vapor Man, Meteor Man, and Gravity Girl, each bringing something wildly different to the mix. Vapor Man could turn into mist, Meteor Man could grow to massive sizes, and Gravity Girl controlled the pull of planets. Together they formed a super-powered task force working for the Galactic Patrol, a kind of cosmic police force, before Space Cops became a cartoon cliché. What made the show special wasn't its simple plots, but its tone. Every episode felt like a mini-adventure across the stars, mixing sleek 60s art with futuristic 70s ideas. Even though the animation was basic, the imagination behind it was boundless. There were alien worlds shaped like crystals, battles inside asteroid belts, and a sense of wonder that kept young viewers glued to their screens. While the Galaxy Trio never reached the fame of its partner show, Birdman, it quietly shaped how superhero teams were presented in animation. The trio's teamwork equality and no-nonsense bravery inspired a generation of young fans who would later see echoes of their spirit in shows like Justice League and Voltron. Spiderwoman, 1979 to 1980. When Marvel decided to give a female hero her own animated spotlight, the result was Spiderwoman, a moody, imaginative, and surprisingly daring show that blended spy intrigue with classic hero adventure. Jessica Drew wasn't just a superhero. She was an investigator, a leader, and a thinker. And in an era where most heroines played sidekick, she took center stage. Each episode began with that unforgettable transformation scene, Jessica raising her arms as lightning crackled around her, and the words "Spider-Woman" echoed through the air. With her red and yellow costume and psychic powers, she could glide across the skies, communicate telepathically, and even outsmart aliens and robots who tried to conquer Earth. What made this series so striking was its tone. It wasn't just another cartoon about catching crooks, it was full of mystery science fiction and genuine atmosphere. Jessica often faced supernatural threats from ancient gods to cosmic invaders, yet she handled them all with calm confidence and a sense of compassion rarely seen in animation of that time. The voice acting led by Joan Van Ark gave Spider-Woman both strength and humanity. She wasn't invincible. She was relatable, juggling her secret life with her work as a magazine editor. For kids watching in the late 70s, she became a symbol of independence and intellect wrapped in adventure. Though it only lasted one season, Spider-Woman left a web of influence across later animated heroines. It showed that power and poise could coexist, and that a hero didn't need a mask to stand tall. Space Ghost. Reruns through the 1970s. Before Batman brooded and before Superman had theme music, there was Space Ghost, the stoic, square-jawed hero of the cosmos. Created by Hanna-Barbera in the mid-60s, but aired constantly through the 70s, Space Ghost became the ultimate symbol of old-school superhero cool. Clad in white and gold, with a booming voice courtesy of Gary Owens, he patrolled distant galaxies with his sidekicks Jan and Jace, plus their pet monkey Blip, because every show in that era needed a mascot. Each episode was pure adventure, distilled into 10 minutes of excitement. Space Ghost faced off against creatures with names like Zorak, Brak, and Metallus, villains so strange they felt pulled from the edge of a dream. Using his power bands to shoot energy blasts, fly through space, or cloak himself in invisibility. Space Ghost was the template for countless heroes who followed. The animation was simple, but the atmosphere was cosmic. Dramatic lighting, moody backdrops, and that unforgettable theme song gave the show an otherworldly gravitas. Watching Space Ghost reruns in the 70s felt like discovering an artifact from an earlier, weirder age of heroism. Though later parodied in Space Ghost Coast to Coast, the original series had an earnestness that still holds up. It wasn't about irony or laughs. It was about honor, bravery, and mystery. In its quiet way, Space Ghost built the bridge between comic book fantasy and television legend. Super Friends, the legendary superpowers show, 1984 to 1985. You can't talk about forgotten superhero cartoons without mentioning Super Friends. It was the big, colorful meeting place for all your favorite DC heroes, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and a rotating cast of sidekicks and new recruits. But the mid-80s version, the legendary Superpowers show, gave the formula one last brilliant, if chaotic, hurrah. This series introduced deeper storytelling, slightly more serious plots, and one of DC's most underrated villains, Darkseid. The heroes were no longer just lecturing about good behavior, they were saving entire planets from cosmic disasters. The animation got a boost, too, with smoother designs and richer backgrounds that gave every battle a little extra weight. But even with its upgrades, Super Friends never lost its heart. Every episode carried that warm, moral core lessons about teamwork, honesty, and courage. And that's what made it endure. Kids learned that you didn't need super strength to be a hero. Sometimes it was enough to do the right thing when it counted. The show marked the end of an era. By the mid-80s, cartoons were getting flashier, darker, and more serialized. Super Friends was a holdover from a simpler time, a bright, optimistic world where justice always won, and the bad guys always learned their lesson. Looking back, that's what makes it timeless. It was Saturday morning hope, wrapped in capes and lightning bolts. Plastic Man comedy / adventure show, 1979 to 1981. If ever there was a hero who didn't take himself too seriously, it was Plastic Man. This elastic wonder was part superhero, part stand-up act, and completely unforgettable. With his shades red jumpsuit and an ability to stretch into anything from a trampoline to a pretzel, Plastic Man was unlike anyone else on television. The Plastic Man comedy adventure show captured the essence of fun. Airing on ABC's Saturday lineup, it was a wild mix of superhero slapstick and cartoon chaos. Every episode threw our flexible hero into impossible situations, foiling goofy crooks, rescuing friends, and turning his stretchy limbs into sight gags that made kids howl with laughter. What really sold the show, though, was its energy. The pacing was lightning fast, the animation bright and bouncy, and the humor constant. Plastic Man's charm came from his ability to laugh at danger and turn failure into flair. He wasn't the stoic type. He was the class clown of the superhero world, and he knew it. Behind the jokes was genuine creativity. This show wasn't afraid to experiment with visual comedy, turning its hero into anything the animators could dream up. It even featured new characters like Penny, his cheerful partner, and Hula Hula, his comically unlucky sidekick. Together they kept things rolling with endless personality. Though Plastic Man only lasted a couple of seasons, its spirit lived on in later animated heroes who embraced humor without losing heart. It reminded everyone that not all heroes need tragic backstories or dark cities. Sometimes saving the day is just another excuse to have fun. The New Adventures of Flash Gordon, 1979 to 1982. Few cartoons ever looked as bold or as cinematic as The New Adventures of Flash Gordon. While most TV animation of the era was simple, this series went all in with sweeping landscapes, dramatic angles, and lush colors. Produced by Filmation, it was an ambitious revival of the 1930s sci-fi legend, giving a whole new generation their own intergalactic hero. Flash Gordon wasn't just a man with a ray gun. He was the kind of fearless adventurer who raced across planets to save both Earth and humanity's spirit. Alongside the brilliant Dale Arden and the loyal Dr. Zarkov, Flash fought the evil Ming the Merciless in a world bursting with lava rivers, floating cities, and creatures straight out of pulp fantasy. What made this version stand out was how seriously it treated its world. The writing had depth, the music soared, and the storylines carried an emotional weight unusual for a Saturday morning show. This was high adventure with heart. Even Ming the villain had gravitas. His tyranny felt genuinely dangerous, his empire vast and chilling. Visually, it was stunning. The animation drew heavily from European and comic book art styles, giving every episode a cinematic glow. Kids felt like they were watching an animated movie every week. Though the show never reached massive popularity, it left an enormous legacy influencing later series like He-Man and Thundercats. For those who caught it, Flash Gordon was unforgettable. A mix of bravery, love, and cosmic wonder that reminded everyone why space heroes will never go out of style. Defenders of the Earth, 1986 to 1987. When heroes from different worlds team up, you know things are about to get legendary. Defenders of the Earth took that idea and turned it into a Saturday morning spectacle. It united pulp-era icons like Flash Gordon the Phantom and Mandrake the Magician into one incredible alliance against a familiar foe, Ming the Merciless. Set in a near-future Earth under threat, the series combined the best of old-school heroism and modern sci-fi energy. Each hero brought something different. Flash's courage, the Phantom's mysticism, and Mandrake's hypnotic powers. Together they formed a team that was both noble and nostalgic, bridging generations of adventure storytelling. But the secret ingredient was family. Each hero had children who joined the action, creating a second generation of heroes, learning to live up to their legendary parents. This gave the show heart and relatability, balancing galaxy-saving battles with smaller emotional moments about courage and responsibility. Produced by Marvel Productions, Defenders of the Earth stood out for its sharp writing and surprisingly complex themes. It wasn't afraid to get serious exploring what it meant to be a hero in a changing world. The animation was top tier, for the time fast, fluid, and bursting with energy. Though it only ran for one season, the show's theme song alone could give you goosebumps. Defenders of the Earth became an anthem of teamwork and legacy. It proved that even when worlds collide, good old-fashioned heroism still wins the day. Bionic 6, 1987 to 1989. If you thought superheroes were all about capes and secret lairs, Bionic 6 changed the game. This animated gem gave us something refreshingly different, a family of heroes. Imagine a mom, dad, and their kids all enhanced with incredible bionic abilities, saving the world together while still dealing with everyday family squabbles. Led by Professor Sharp and his son, Jack, this high-tech family fought to protect humanity from the villainous Dr. Scarab and his colorful crew. But what made Bionic 6 unforgettable wasn't just the action, it was the warmth. Between missions, they had dinner together, worried about school, and teased one another like any real family. It made the show feel grounded even when they were flying through futuristic cities or exploring undersea bases. Visually, Bionic 6 was a knockout. The animation quality was unusually high for television, with smooth character movements, dynamic angles, and vivid color palettes. Each family member had their own powers and personality. Mother one's telepathy, sport, one's strength, rock one's sonic blasts, and they worked in harmony like a futuristic orchestra. The show carried real emotion, too. Episodes often touched on loyalty sacrifice and what it means to stick together when things get tough. Beneath all the sci-fi sparkle was a surprisingly heartfelt message. Family is the ultimate superpower. Though it didn't last long, Bionic 6 became a cult favorite, remembered by fans for its catchy theme song and its rare ability to blend warmth, wit, and high-octane heroics into one unforgettable mix. Turbo Teen, 1984 to 1985. And then there was Turbo Teen, the strangest, most gloriously over-the-top superhero concept of the 80s. Imagine a teenage boy who turns into a car whenever he gets too warm. That's right, a human sports car with headlights for eyes and tires for feet. It sounds impossible, but somehow it worked. Brett Matthews, the show's protagonist, gained his transformation powers after a freak laboratory accident, because of course that's how all great heroes begin. With the help of his friends, Patty Alex, and their dog Rusty, he used his bizarre ability to fight crime and race to the rescue, all while hiding his secret from the world. The transformation scenes became legendary for their odd mix of cool and creepy melting animation effects, revving engines, and a soundtrack that screamed pure 80s energy. But beneath the wild concept was genuine creativity. Turbo Teen blended action humor and heart into a fast-paced ride that kids couldn't turn away from. What made the show special was its spirit. It never tried to make sense of itself, it just had fun. It leaned into its weirdness and came out the other side as a cult classic. For fans of retro cartoons, it's the perfect symbol of what made that era so magical, when imagination had no limits, and even a kid who turned into a car could be a hero. Superheroes come and go, but these forgotten icons from the 70s and 80s still shine in memory. They may not have had blockbuster budgets or streaming revivals, but they had something better, heart color, and the courage to be original. Which one of these nostalgic heroes deserves a comeback? Let us know in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and keep the memories rolling, because every legend starts with a spark of imagination.